Hi, this is Sarah Eder with my innovative plan for change. It's called Using the Bold School Framework for Strategic Blended Learning to Increase Student Achievement. I'll be telling you about my plan, providing some research, and telling you some communication ideas and how I'm going to address challenges and what I expect to see from implementing this plan. This plan is in 3 parts. In the whole point of the plan, it's using a specific framework to help teachers develop a blended learning classroom model, and so that they can see some increase in student achievement. So this particular plan starts with a book study, Visible Learning by John Hattie and Bold School by Weston Kieschnick. Those books provide some great tools for understanding blended learning. Then teachers will have time to design lessons on that Bold School blended learning framework. And then they'll have a chance to implement it, get some feedback from administrators, and try again. This plan was designed for Magnolia Intermediate School. It's a 5th and 6th grade campus with about 1,000 students. And what I'd like to point out are some of the demographics and some of the subpopulations that are pretty high. So in this case, there's 24% limited English proficiency, 14% special education students, and 62% economically disadvantaged, which this plan will really address some of the needs of students in these particular subcategories. Supporting research, I started out with what is blended learning. Blended learning is a combination of traditional classroom models with digital tools that really allow students some choice and voice in what they do in the class. Blended learning has been shown to increase student achievement. Specifically, blended learning has the potential to increase student achievement for students who have some significant educational gaps, because blended learning allows the learning itself to be highly individualized. Included some research about visible learning, or John Hattie's high yield instructional strategies, because in the Bold School blended learning framework, using a high yield instructional strategy is part of that framework. So the teachers need to know what those strategies are. So here's the Bold School framework for blended learning, and it's a pretty simple process. You identify your academic outcomes, you select the appropriate instructional strategy to get kids to achieve those outcomes, then you find a digital tool that supports that if it's appropriate. You plan the use of the blended instruction, and then you assess what you did. In this particular case, I'm going to ask that the assessment there is assess for rigor and relevance framework. And what this does is it allows teachers and educators to analyze instruction or assessments along 2 continuums at the same time. So in this case, against Bloom's taxonomy and application to real world situations. Why does this campus even need this change? Here is data that is taken from Canvas usage, which is Canvas is the LMS used in this particular school, and their bars are in the blue, and the yellow bars are the other intermediate school in the district. And clearly, the number of action taken, and the number of page views taken in the previous months were significantly higher at the other intermediate campus. So in a conversation with the principals, identified that the teachers needed a better plan on how to use some digital tools in a really in a way that makes sense for them. So this campus has a lot going for it as far as what's already in place. The teachers already possess a lot of knowledge and skills that will help them hang on to this process easily. They already understand high yield instructional strategies. They've already had basic professional development about campus, and there's already a professional learning community culture in place. Also have some resources available to them that will facilitate this plan going well. There's digital learning specialists at the district level that's available to provide professional development and classroom support for the digital tools that the teachers choose to use in their blended learning lessons. There's also PLC time, so they have time to develop lessons, and the school already uses rigor and relevance walkthroughs, so that protocol is already in place and teachers understand it. So in the time available, the campus already has book study structures in place and PLCs in place, so that time's already available to happen. And so the plan is to do the book studies in the first couple of months using the book study structures in place, and then in March allow the teachers to design lessons in that blended learning format. April, some professional development would be made available to using the digital tools. Rigor and relevance walkthroughs might happen in May, and then repeat the process the next school year. Anticipated benefits for the students and teachers. For students, that they'll have blended learning that's more personalized, available to them. They'll have exposure to new technology tools. They'll have increased exposure to rigorous experiences. Teachers will have kind of an on-demand professional support in place for using digital tools, and they'll develop an understanding of how to implement blended learning in their classroom. Because this particular campus already has so many of these, has knowledge and skills and things in place that really work in line with implementing this plan, the participation for both teachers and administrators is expected. In this instance, the stakeholders' commitments need to come from administrators and teachers. The administrators need to be committed to providing events, that things get scheduled, that time gets scheduled, that they provide walkthroughs and then provide data. Teachers, however, really need to make commitments that are much more theoretical, like committing to developing a culture that includes blended learning, and then also be committed to working through using digital tools in the classroom, because that always comes with its own set of missteps and challenges. So in order to know that leaders are doing what needs to be done in this plan, the artifacts would be a calendar that indicates that when the book studies are happening, scheduling professional development to support teachers using the digital tools, actually performing the rigor and relevance walkthroughs, and providing the data. So far, everything has been really about administrators and teachers, but the communication plan in this will really need to also include students and parents. Communication with staff will happen through emails, calendar invites, the Canvas Hub, where they house a lot of their documentations for teachers. But students and parents will need to have some communication. If there's a change in instruction and how instruction is happening in the classroom, students and parents need to be aware of that, number one. And number two, they need to be provided with resources to help them understand what's happening. Maybe parents need to be able on how to support their student if they have to do something at home, or even just making sure parents know when tutoring is, so that if students need extra help, it's available. So I feel that teachers are going to really kind of be like, oh man, there's not enough time to do this. We're expected to use new things and we never get any support on that. So I think it's important to provide teachers that with like calendars saying here's when dates that things are going to happen, and including dates that the digital learning specialists will be there to provide professional development and support in the classrooms. Challenges that students and parents will face is that they might think that using these technology tools is difficult, or the rigorous assignments are difficult, and so just communicating well with parents and students will help address those challenges. Benefits for teachers and students, but really what's going to happen is that the better the teachers get at using a blended learning model and individualizing learning for students, the higher students will achieve. Success measures on this will be an increased number of actions taken in Canvas. So if we look at in the spring what were the same bar graphs for the spring, we'll see an increase in that particular graph. And also in the rigor and relevance walkthrough data would indicate more lessons happening in the C and D quadrants. Thank you so much for taking the time and listening to my innovative plan for change.